Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Matheson, here to talk to you today about the DCAT, an approach to work capacity evaluation that integrates information about abilities from the Occupational Information Network, ONET. This builds on a talk that I provided to the Korea Workers' Compensation Commission as part of that earlier talk addressing the historical background of functional capacity evaluation and work hardening. I presented a current case study that describes the use of ONET to evaluate and treat a critical care nurse. I'll briefly review the case study and introduce the DCAT, which is designed to collect data that facilitates occupational rehabilitation. In the late 1990s, I led an international team headquartered at WashU to develop new methods to determine work disability, which was focused on developing occupational therapy assessment strategies linked to the newly released Occupational Information Network, ONET. We developed and made available at no charge systems based on the ONET content model that were designed to evaluate and treat clients with disabilities as they transition from the outpatient clinic to the workplace. One of the 6 segments of the ONET content model focuses on worker characteristics, the abilities, occupational interests, work values, and work styles that are found in people who are employed in various occupations. Our focus today is on abilities. There are 52 worker abilities, 21 cognitive abilities, 10 psychomotor abilities, 9 physical abilities, and 12 sensory abilities. In the earlier talk, we addressed 2 important questions that involve ONET. First, what abilities should be our FCE focus? Cognitive, psychomotor, physical, or sensory? In almost every case, it's important to include all 4 and develop what we call a vocational factors profile. The basic idea is that the tasks are generally related to the abilities that the person has in the job. If a person has significant tenure in a particular occupational category, they've been performing tasks that are within their range of abilities. A secondary question is, what job demand level should be our FCE target? In the vocational factors profile, ONET provides information that we can use as abilities targets that are always greater than the demands of the job. If a person's abilities do not exceed the demands of the job, by definition, they're incompatible with the job and won't continue employment. Now let's turn to a 21st century case study to see how we can apply ONET to FCE and work hardening. This woman has worked for 10 years as a critical care nurse. She loves her job, but is now very discouraged because she experienced a clavicle fracture, cervical spine strain with disc protrusions, and a concussion in a fall down a staircase at work. Although her clavicle healed after about 8 weeks and she attempted to return to work, she was unable to meet the demands of her job because of upper extremity bilateral dysthesias and post-traumatic headache. She wants to return to work and is referred for a functional capacity evaluation and consideration of a work hardening program. With this case study, we identified 17 target variables, 7 of which can be addressed by administration of the DCAT. This is a printout from the Cognitive Abilities Profiler, a method I developed based on the ONET content model using data from ONET. The most recent database allows us to compare the critical care nurse occupational demands to 873 ONET occupations. The focus for today's talk is on the level of the demand. Ranked from 0 to 100, what level of ability must a person have to be successful in this occupation? If we graph the 7 cognitive abilities plus the 2 psychomotor abilities, we see that the ability levels of critical care nurses are very high compared to other occupations in the ONET database. The only ability that is below the median is visualization. Perceptual speed, problem sensitivity, selective attention, and time sharing are all above the 90th percentile. So let's take a closer look at 3 of the cognitive abilities that ONET can address. Let's start with oral comprehension, and then take a look at selective attention and time sharing. Oral comprehension is defined as the ability to listen to and understand information and ideas presented through spoken words and sentences. A high level of ability would involve the worker understanding complex or detailed information presented orally, containing unusual words and phrases with fine distinctions in meaning. At the low end of the ability spectrum, the worker would demonstrate the ability to understand short or simple spoken information presented orally, containing common words and phrases. Selective attention is next, which is the ability to concentrate on a task without being distracted. At the high end, this would require intense concentration on a complex task in the presence of a great deal of background distraction. At the low end, this would require enough attention to do a simple routine task in the presence of a little background distraction. And finally, let's take a look at time sharing, the ability to shift back and forth between two or more activities or sources of information. At the high end, this would involve the worker using more than two sources to get complex information at a rapid rate. At the low end, this would involve the worker using two sources to get simple information at a slow pace. And so to continue with our example, how does the DCAT provide us with the opportunity to collect information on these three ability categories? The first step is that the DCAT has 3 work sample tests that are based upon the complexity of a doll chair assembly task. The baby bear chair involves 27 parts, the mama bear chair involves 34 parts, and the papa bear chair involves 40 parts. Both the mama and papa chairs have built-in challenges beyond just an increased number of parts. To start the evaluation, we would administer one of these 3 work sample tests. Based on the person's performance, we would select one of 12 situational assessments. The situational assessment would again involve the chair assembly, but with the addition of distractor parts and the elimination of a parts mat, which is a cognitive organizational tool. During the assembly process, the person would be interrupted with telephone messages in a telephone message transcription task. The lowest level would be to record the date of the call and to check off one of 4 recipients' names. The next level up would be to add the time of the call and the phone number of the caller. The highest level would be to add the caller's name and the message. On this basis, we have a combination of 12 situational assessments and 3 work samples that we can administer. This provides us with an increase in cognitive demand and an increase in psychomotor demand that the evaluator and therapist can have control of. By increasing the complexity, we increase the demand on a graduated basis. So I think you can see now how we address oral comprehension and selective attention and time sharing with the DCAT. The DCAT allows us to come up with estimates of the person's ability in these 3 areas, plus the other 6 areas we've been discussing. We administer the DCAT, and we find that the person's abilities are at these levels. On this basis, we can conclude that at least for now, this person is not capable of performing the work of a critical care nurse. She requires rehabilitation. And so she participates in a work-oriented neurorehabilitation program, receiving work hardening, occupational therapy, and physical therapy, and is retested. Based upon her performance in the work-oriented neurorehabilitation program, her abilities increase, but still not to the level required of a critical care nurse. Only 3 of the 6 ability scores are at that level. But because she wants to go back to work, and she's got a good work history, she returns to participate in the work-oriented neurorehabilitation program. On this basis, in this particular case, she was able to return to work as a nurse in a less demanding job. Thank you for your attention. I hope that this has been useful in helping you recognize and develop the value in each of us. Take care now.